Good morning, everyone. You're very welcome to this morning's webinar about achieving the CFP certification. In terms of the agenda for today's webinar, we'll be giving a quick overview of LIA's Postgraduate Diploma in Financial Planning Programme, which is a gateway qualification for those who wish to obtain the Certified Financial Planner or CFP certification. I'm delighted to be joined by our panelists today. We have Emer Kirk, who is the CEO of FPSB Ireland and lecturer on the Postgraduate Diploma programme. And Emer will be hosting the discussion with two graduates and CFP professionals, Mark Hedderman, who is CEO of Hedderman Financial Services, and Kelly-Anne Quinn, founder of Life Planning. Both have been through the programme, so you'll be hearing from them about their experience of their journey to CFP, how it has benefited their career, and I suppose like how the industry has evolved and changed over the last 10 years. I would encourage you all to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen if you do have any questions for myself or the panelists as we go through the discussion, and we will set some time aside at the end then to answer those questions. Just before I hand you over to Emer, I'm just going to give you a very high level overview of the education programme. So on screen, you will see the programme structure, the modules, and then the terms. There are 6 modules on the programme and they're split across 3 terms running September to December, February to May, and then again in September to December. If you complete 2 modules in a term, you'll have the programme completed within 18 months. But you also have the option to complete 1 module each term. Lectures start first week in September, and they're held midweek in the evenings from 6 to half 8. Those, I suppose, that complete the programme will also gain professional designations en route. And these include the SIA, the Specialist Investment Advisor designation, which is given to those who successfully complete the Investment Management module, and the RPA, the Retirement Planning Advisor designation, which is given to those upon completion of the Retirement Planning module. And then finally, the FPRA, the Financial Planning Risk Advisor designation, for those who successfully complete the risk management and insurance planning module. So the program is very flexible. So if you are nervous about committing to the full program, you might be interested in starting off and completing 1 module, maybe the investment management or the retirement planning module, to give you a bit of an insight into the program while also obtaining a professional designation. The lectures and the exams are both online, so there's no geographical barrier for anyone who might be interested in the programme. The lecturers themselves, some of the names you might recognise on screen, they really set the programme apart in terms of the calibre and experience that they bring. They're all practitioners. And each year we always get great feedback, on the lecturers because they really bring the modules to life for students. I also just want to maybe just highlight as well that the CFP certification is not automatically awarded on completion of this programme. So to obtain the CFP certification, you must complete this programme plus the relevant criteria to sit the CFP exam, which is run by the Financial Planning Standards Board. We'll be providing a little bit more information at the end as to, how you can get in touch with us if you'd like more information. But for now, I'm going to hand you over to Emer, and she is going to be chatting with 2 of our CFP professionals, Mark Hedderman and Kelly-Anne Quinn. And then I'm going to join you then again at the end for the Q&A. Thanks, Emer.
Great. Thanks, Eva. It's great to see so many of you here today, ready to hear more about the world of financial planning. So we have a fantastic session lined up where you'll be hearing from 2 experienced financial planning professionals about their journey to becoming CFP certified and how it shaped their careers and their lives. But first, before we get into that, I just want to give you a quick overview of the Financial Planning Standards Board and the Certified Financial Planner certification. So FPSB Ireland is part of a global network of 28 affiliates under FPSB Limited. And FPSB Limited is the standards and certification body for international standards and certification body for financial planning. So there are over 223,000 CFP professionals worldwide at the end of 2023. More than 100,000 of those are in the US, there's 25,000 plus in Canada, and almost 5,000 in Australia. So just to give you a very broad view on where they're located. So they're located in most of the OECD countries. And this international certification is highly regarded and it can be transferred across countries subject to local regulations. So if you are thinking about working abroad in the future, your CFP certification will be a valuable asset that potentially can transfer with you subject to local rules where you're moving to. So the Financial Planning Standards Board has two main goals: raising public awareness about the benefit of financial planning and the value of CFP certification, and then as a standards and certification body. And as Eva alluded to there, the certification requirements are summarised as the 4 E's. So there's education, which the Postgraduate Diploma in Financial Planning satisfies; the examination, which is set by FPSB Ireland, but the postgrad prepares you for this and provides you with the majority of the preparation for this. You're required to have experience in the field of financial planning, and then sign up to a code of ethics and professional responsibility, which you'll become very familiar with on the postgrad as it's weaved through it. So the FPSB Global Financial Planning Standards then is the framework for advice that sets CFP professionals apart, and it's organised under 3 main headings. So knowing, doing and being. And knowing, this is there's 9 knowledge domains every financial planner should master, such as tax planning, retirement planning, principles and practices of financial planning, and the integrated financial planning. And the postgraduate programme aligns with all of these domains, and it's updated regularly to reflect changing client needs and industry practices. And an example of this is the addition in 2023 of the psychology of financial planning, which highlights the importance of understanding client behaviour and decision-making processes. And we've brought in, for the principles and practices of financial planning module, starting in September, we've brought in 2 experts to really bring this to life, and with the assessments designed to help you apply these learnings into your client interactions. So again, it's a real focus on the practical application of these learnings to your day-to-day interactions with clients. The doing then, it focuses on the practical application of the knowledge through core practices and standards. And weave through this then includes emotional intelligence and client engagement. And these skills are developed throughout the postgrad modules, particularly in the integrated financial planning module, where all of the elements of the previous 5 modules come together in a comprehensive financial plan for a client. So this really emphasises the practical application of your knowledge that you're acquiring on the postgrad in delivering advice to clients. And then last but not least is being. So we've got knowing, doing and being. And being is about the ethics and professional responsibility, emphasising the ethical and professional duties of financial planners. And again, this is weaved through the modules on the postgrad course. And I mentioned there just the introduction of the psychology of financial planning, and there's a growing trend in the profession towards valuing the human skills, which are crucial for building strong client relationships and effectively addressing their needs. So these skills, include the likes of trust building, effective communication, coaching, client engagement, emotional intelligence, client advocacy, and the development of these practical skills has been weaved through the modules. So I suppose, what does it look like then on the other side? And the need for financial planning has never been greater. So later this year, we'll have just over 1,000 active CFP professionals in Ireland, and the demand for CFP professionals has never been greater. So in my role in FPSB Ireland, I hear from industry leaders that CFP certification has become the must-have for promotions and recruiting senior advisors and wealth managers within the industry. And the postgrad is really designed to give you a very solid foundation and advanced insights into financial planning. So you'll gain really practical skills, a deep understanding of client behaviour, and the ability to offer really high-end advice. And as you start in this journey, you're not just becoming financial planners. It's really about becoming trusted advisors who can make a real difference in clients' lives. So I think that's probably enough from me now. It's time to hear from our 2 CFP professionals who are living and breathing this every day, and both graduates of the programme, about their own experiences. So Kelly-Anne, I might just come to you first. You're very welcome, and thank you for joining us this morning. I suppose the first question I'd ask is, as a recent graduate of the programme, what made you make the decision to undertake the postgrad and pursue the CFP qualification?
Yeah, well, as you touched on there, you know, the financial and planning landscape has changed, and I've been client facing for over 20 years. And there was certain times that I realized that I'd reached my limitations on the advice I could give people. And I had recognized that they needed to go towards a financial planner. And for me, then I really wanted to be able to take them to the next level. I need to be able to give them, you know, a holistic view, to look at all their assets, liabilities, whether they were extracting themselves in a business. Just given the product based advice just wasn't enough, and it wasn't sufficient. So for a long time, I was aware of certified financial planning, and I had wanted to be part of it. But what was holding me back was my family commitments. I just didn't know if I had the time. And then I had looked at it to see if, you know, the lectures were in Dublin or Portlaoise, and would I be able to. So then when it went online for me, that was a game changer. That meant then I could be able to do my day's work, look after the family, and then be able to do my lectures online. So really, that's while I was aware of it and I wanted to do it, it made it more accessible then when it went online.
Yeah, of course. And Mark, I suppose you were one of the earlier students on the program. Can you tell us what made you decide to undertake the program?
Yeah, I suppose for me, a lot of the people I emulated and looked up to within the profession were already CFPs, people like Brennan Reid and Ted Dwyer and Michael Gagan and others. And my own dad, who'd done the CFP back in 2008, 2009, one of the very early starters. Like, these were people who I found you gravitated towards in respect of kind of, they were peers, they were mentors within the profession. And the aspiration was, well, if this is what the other guys are doing and other girls are doing within the profession, well, this is the right course of action to undertake. So I was delighted to start it in 2016 and complete in 2017. And talk about I'd been in the profession I joined the industry in 2011, and the objective, obviously, transitioning then in 2017 was kind of like a reincarnation of my own job at that point. It was effectively like exiting the industry and joining the profession. So I couldn't speak highly enough for it. I think it was a real mindset change. And the interesting thing is, prior to commencing the course, I felt maybe we'd run against the head in respect of the breadth and width of services that we could provide to clients. So it was, again, it was like several doors opening to us completing the CFP course and completing the Graduate Diploma in Financial Planning. It was a remarkable time, and it's amazing to be involved now and see so many others coming through that process. And myself and Kelly-Anne have spoken about this on numerous occasions. Just like all of a sudden, this whirlwind of information available to you, and, as I said, doors opening at left, right, and centre.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah, and I suppose there, Mark, you touched on it there. You know that you were involved in the family business obviously since 2011, and undertook the CFP then a number of years later. I suppose, you know, outside of your own business and I suppose even within it as well, you know, how have you seen the financial planning landscape in Ireland evolve and continue to evolve? You know, and how would you say that the qualifications in practical terms have enabled you to adapt to these changes that you're seeing happening in the market?
I think we've been very lucky, Emer, in this sense, because first of all, like the undertaking the qualification, like that global designation, I feel it's opened up the channel of communication with those other 223,000 CFPs across the globe. But one of the major things is, obviously, we're all dealing with the same issue when it comes to clients. We all want the same outcome. Clients want the same outcomes. We just maybe have different languages, or we're dealing with different tax jurisdictions, tax codes. So I think it was really remarkable to say, at that point in time, we were at what I described as the industrial revolution stages of financial planning, where we were working within an evolving profession in Ireland, and we were able to lean in on our peers overseas who might have been 5 or 10 years ahead of us. And the amazing thing is, I had a call with a high profile Canadian CFP about 2 months ago. I'd say I reached out through LinkedIn. It's just that designation just changes the whole dynamic of the conversation. So all of a sudden it breaks down those barriers. And we did the same thing, and myself and a number of advisors traveled to a CFP conference in South Africa last year. This is just stuff prior to taking on the course that was just never on our radar. And we'd attended things like MDRT and stuff in the past in North America, but we felt now was key that we more so concentrated you know, the type of advice that we were going to seek from other professionals, and all of a sudden, when we know that we've got that sort of globe pated standard within CFP, it was amazing to see that result of that a rising tide actually starts to lift all ships.
Yeah, certainly. And Kelly-Anne, I suppose with your more recent experience, can you give us your thoughts on this?
Yeah. So Mark talks about, you know, opening doors and the collaboration with CFPs internationally. I couldn't get over the level of support that I got from CFPs in Ireland, starting my own business. I didn't expect, you know, everyone is so willing to share their knowledge, to learn, to help you, to open their doors. Mark himself, you know, said, come look, this is the way we're doing things. Everyone is championing each other to be working to the same higher standard where we can all benefit professionally. It also opened doors in accountants and solicitors that I'd been trying to build relationships with. While they didn't fully understand the difference between QFA, CFP, they recognized that I had, you know, I'm taking my career seriously, and now they're more willing to trust their clients with me, and it's definitely fostered new relationships there as well.
Yeah, very good. And I suppose the LIA have been doing work as well with the joint conference with the Institute of Tax and FPSB to highlight the CFP the processes to the tax world and to tax advisors as well. So that's commendable. Just to maybe go back to you, Mark, there. I suppose how do you see the role of CFP professionals evolving maybe over the next 5 or 10 years?
I think it's really exciting. I feel like every week with this is a challenge, and every week we're learning and exploring new areas. There is no, how do you describe this? There's no gated area in respect of where a CFP can go within the scope of their advice and where it's likely to go. And it's amazing, as I spoke about that earlier on, like having spent, you know, let's say that period of 2011 to 2016, effectively kind of put my teeth within the industry, and you know, and finding it was a very linear line in respect of how the advice was implemented. And that was no disrespect within our own firm. It was just the difficulties and remits of how this thing faces for a lot of businesses when you're in practice a long time, and you find yourself kind of unwieldy in respect of what your book of business looks like. And what I think is amazing is one of the areas that we haven't seen here yet, or to any great degree, but seems to be very prominent in a place like North America, is that boutique, that niche offering. And one of the things that strikes me is how niche they go in the States around individual. Now we know that's a different tax jurisdiction, but you know, spoke to a number of advisors there recently who just purely have a network in America that deals solely with divorcees. And within that structure of CFPs, now whether that's a space you want to get involved in Ireland, that's neither here nor there, I suppose. But the beauty of this in a way was they had crafted, exactly as Kelly-Anne spoke to, they had crafted a bubble around them whereby the CFP was the center point of the relationship with somebody who was an emotionally and probably financial, psychologically a very difficult space. And the role of the CFP there was to basically say, don't worry, we've got your back. But we also then have the feeds out to everybody else, tax consultant, the wellness experts, you know, the legal element, if you know. So I think where this will allow people hopefully to go in time off in Ireland is to review and gauge what's happening around us. I know I keep speaking globally about this, but I think what we are seeing in places like Canada and the UK, South Africa, Australia will get drip fed in here, particularly with the growth of wealth we're seeing in Ireland, is that there will be a requirement for more specialized skills. And we use this rationale in the office. Let's go deep rather than going wide on this thing. So let's serve a very, very small number of people incredibly well in a very, very certain space. And that gives us great competence in respect to what we do, but great confidence as well delivering to clients. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we don't want clients having sleepless nights thinking, are we working with the right people? Do those people have our best interests at heart? So I think the CFP element takes a large part of that out of the conversation. And it means what we've noticed in a way, it's a strange thing for us in the office. We've never been more qualified, but we've never spent less time talking about our qualifications. And the rationale for that is previously there was that imposter syndrome where you felt you had to get across to people and going to look after you. In my studies, we're nearly selling ourselves. Solicitors, our other professional peers don't do that. Now that might be my hang up. There's plenty of people on this call, I'm sure, saying, geez, I don't do that, I'm fine. That's just my nature in terms of how it was always for me. And I still sometimes feel slipping into that. But the amazing thing about the graduate diploma course in CFP is the imposter syndrome falls away. it just drops away overnight. And as Kelly said, you find yourself among peers at the Managing Wealth conference that we were at. I was blown away. Like I get emotional sometimes seeing that transition to how professional this has become in such a short space of time. And as a result of that, you get such great sentiment being a part of it, because you're feeling we're all moving in the right direction. And ultimately, the direction of this is the betterment of the country as a whole, because the more better outcomes we can get for clients, that has a ripple effect across the pond. More people go out and say, you need to engage with the CFP. You know, so I think this is the world effective is our oyster Easter. This one, Emer, because you've spoken about it there. There's roughly speaking about 1,000 CFPs or so in Ireland. And that sounds like a large number, but relative to the number of people who need advice, it's tiny. And Kelly-Anne will tell you this directly, is that at no point do you ever come across somebody in terms of a conflict or in contrast in terms of giving advice. Because there are just so many people waking up, rationalizing today, I've made a mistake. And the big role, we talk about this with clients, the big thing is not so much about us getting great outcomes for clients or great investment returns. It's just not letting them make mistakes. And if we can offset 2 or 3 mistakes over the course of their financial life, they effectively don't have to worry about anything. So it's about getting that messaging out there. And I think it's what's yet to come. Like, I mean, the best, it's like, it sounds like a sports analogy, but by God, is the best yet to come within this profession.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know CFP board in the US celebrated 50 years this year. And you know, I know from being involved with the FPSB, you know, in the US, you have your physician, your solicitor, your accountant, and your CFP, and they're your 4 professionals that every, you know, individual who I suppose is serious about their financial and their well-being will have on their speed dial. Kelly-Anne, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting what Mark said about that imposter syndrome falling away. That is so true. Like, I've spent my time now just simplifying everything that goes out from my company. The message, is it clear? Can anybody pick it up and understand it? And I'm just trying to, you know, and there's a confidence within that, that I'm secure in my knowledge that I'm able to, you know, break everything down. And then, yeah, the support and the champion of all the other CFP community.
Yeah,
You know,
and I suppose that is one thing that as I know from my own experience with CFP and working in practice, is that the CFP community in Ireland is very tight, and we have the highest retention rate across the globe for CFPs, and part of that, I think, is because of that community of CFP professionals that has been fostered over the years, and that you know, confidence to share ideas and to share thoughts and to help each other out, which has been a huge benefit over the years.
Yeah, because we've different experience, and you find within the postgrads, you know, you make connections, even though it's online, you still make very strong connections, and you'll meet up at different events and stuff, and then you have people in a WhatsApp group that you can go to and ask advice. You're stronger here, I've come across this, you know, it's very supportive.
Yeah,
there's a yearning to keep growing, and there's a yearning to keep exploring, and like you say, sometimes you finish the CFP, and a lot of people are kind of okay, what's next? How do we keep going here? And it's great to see the relationships that's been fostered between the LAA and FPSB and FPI and other organizations coming together and saying, well, look, you know, let's hear some really good content, or let's put people in a room together. You ran an event quite recently in Cork and brought a number of CFP professionals together, you know, with Conventional. Really well received, and all it is about putting groups of people together in a room. We're not in conflict, we're not in contrast with one another, just sharing of ideas. How can I come away and maybe how can I provide 3 bits of valuable information and take away 3 valuable bits of information? And with things like COVID, a lot of this fell away, and there is probably a requirement for those who have completed the postgrad to have that sort of specialized niche of a community they can come together with and share ideas. And that's ultimately how, you know, myself and Kelly-Anne do this, and we did it quite regularly. Maybe last summer when we were chatting about this a lot, Kelly-Anne, and just building out, like, what should a business look like? And you've hit the nail on the head there. The amazing thing, and what seems to come across when you talk to most CFPs, is this concept of simplification. You know, all the complexity is now falling away because it's no longer needed. You no longer need to bamboozle people with 10 bits of information to highlight to them that you know what you're talking about. You know, trust and the rapport is already there. It's all about now just taking a step back and saying, well, look, like, how can we get you from point A to point B as simply and as cost efficiently as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose just you know, you've provided some really great insights there into the value that the program brings, both personally and professionally. Now I'm sure there's some people on this call here today who would be excited about the program, but maybe they're worried about the commitment undertaking the program. So can you talk about your own experience through the eye of a student? You know, it is a big time commitment, but how did you manage it whilst you're managing your work-life balance and other commitments?
Yeah, well, when I looked at it, I wasn't sure if I'd be able for it. Like it seemed a year and a half of your life. It seems like such a big commitment. I was strong in the pensions background. I already had the RPI designation, so I decided to do the SA, the investment module first. That way I dipped my toe in, and if I couldn't continue, at least I would have gained more experience and knowledge in investments. And yeah, by doing that, it took the pressure off. It felt smaller. And then it's 12 weeks. Each module is 12 weeks. Again, it absolutely flies by. It doesn't feel it when you're starting it at the 12 weeks, but it really does. And it is important to allocate time within your week, though. You have to plan. You have to be able to say, okay, right, these are my lectures. I'm going on here. You need to give yourself time to be able to review what you learn in the lectures. But then as you're learning, you're bringing it back into work. You're simulating what you learn. It's very practical. You're tweaking your own processes as you go. There was recommended readings as well that I just downloaded as audiobooks, and when I'd be out for a walk or in the car, I'd listen to. So it's all very, very achievable and very, very doable. It's not one big academic learning that you're just sitting down and learning off. It's very practical. And I felt, as the 2 years as I did it over went on, I was changing, I was evolving. So it wasn't just one day. You leave and you have to go and put it all into place. Bit by bit, you're applying your knowledge in your work.
Yeah, and I think even just that there's been some changes made even since you did the postgraduate, Kelly-Anne, just to the structure of the of the assessments as well. So now the assessments are, so it's kind of a 14-week block in that the exams have been moved from January to December. So it is that commitment. You do have that, the 12 weeks of lectures, the exam, and then you've got Christmas off, and you know, you're starting again in February. So you do have that good break, and even the assessments themselves as well. Some of them have been, I know particularly for the principles and practices of financial planning, that assessment has been one of the continuous assessments has been changed there to really show how the knowledge that's been developed on the course can really be applied to your practical day-to-day work. So again, you know, the LIA are constantly evolving the postgraduate to make it as practical and to have that transfer of skills from the knowledge, from the course into really practical skills that you need for client advice. Mark, I know it's probably a distant memory for you, but any advice on how you manage it? And I know you've a number of people in your business as well who've you've supported over the last number of years as well on this course. So how have you managed that? And as a business, how have you managed it as well? Has it been a draw on their own time and resources?
Yeah, I think we've evolved essentially as each of us went through the, where we've probably evolved slightly. So we've now our fourth and fifth members of our team about to commence the graduate diploma. Owen and Ian are about to commence it in September. So that'll be myself, Morris, Luke, and then the two lads taking on. So we'll have effectively 5 people within the team who'll fingers crossed all be CFP qualified. And the remarkable thing is I can look at the journey all the way back to when Morris undertook in 2008. I just come back. I've been studying myself. I was abroad living in France for a number of years, and I come back and I remember my dad undertaking at the time when we were looking at this master's degree, and you know, I remember there being absolute pandemonium in the office because this is a fella who could barely type on a computer, let alone. So I remember at one stage he'd wiped his final thesis. There was tears and all kinds of stuff at one stage, and papers strewn all across the office floor because they'd somehow managed to delete the final paper. So we look at that kind of arc as a journey. I remember doing it then in 2016, and at that point, obviously, we were pre-COVID, so we were in Portlaoise. I spent a full day and a Monday down in Portlaoise, which which to be fair, comes back to Kelly-Anne's point, was great, because again, I was meeting people from around the country who, you know, some worked in banks, some worked in institutions, others were in their own practice, but ultimately everybody had the same outcome in terms of what they're trying to achieve. And we built a lovely community as a result of that, and there was great collaboration. And sometimes a former colleague of mine from the FBI had a great point around this. He said, look, this is at times, irrespective of your knowledge, this is a very lonely business. And whether you're in a 1-person firm or a 100-person firm, it's very lonely, because ultimately that speaks volumes to the type of people that we are. I got what he was saying in the sense that it was lonely in the fact that we're kind of concerned and conscious that is the advice we're providing to clients correct? You know, and it's lonely because sometimes you can't lean in on other parties and say, look, here's my 40-page report, here's whatever it is, like, is this the right way to go? Is this family going to be better off implementing this strategy over that strategy? So the whole rationale around this is just seeing that kind of arc and transition in terms of that collaboration point up to then Luke undertaking the course during COVID. And obviously the interesting is building his community as Kelly-Anne would have done it, you know, albeit digitally. And now for the 2 guys now due to commence in September. So like, I think it's remarkable that the LAA and FPSB have moved with the times on this thing. They've made it much more palatable. Like, you'd argue there was difficulty in terms of trying to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning or earlier. I remember people traveling down from Donegal to get to Port Leash, getting 4 o'clock. This has been made much easier. And the ability to then go back and rewatch recordings or engage with the lecturers, like the beauty for anyone on the line who's kind of concerned or who may have spent time in college or whatever, this is a different ballgame. You're effectively learning from your peers, colleagues within the profession. So all of a sudden, all those barriers have dropped between it being a kind of an institutional element. Everyone's very, very willing to share here. And I never saw there anyone who did have a difficulty not being able to resolve that very quickly, or not having a very much an open door policy for somebody to say, like, look, I'll never forget way back in the day, Paul Grimes coming out to my parents' house back when my dad was doing it on Saturday mornings to give him a dig out with some of the modules. Like, this is the level in terms of how people think. And because in a way we're still a growing profession, the objective of this is that everybody needs to get in and rally and help one another. So yeah, I think it's very palatable. I've looked through the course with the lads. In fairness, Brian Dunphy from the LIA called to the office last week to walk through with the guys, and it's amazing to see how it's evolved so much, and it's so palatable now, so palatable to be taken on.
Yeah, and I think, you know, as you mentioned there, and we spoke about earlier, just that community of CFP professionals is really strong, and it is something that LIA have been doing a lot of work on in terms of including some group work and so that that peer-to-peer learning, which is invaluable, can be and just to get those different perspectives from different people, as you say, working across the across the different areas of the industry, it can be as insightful as you know, as what you can get from your readings and your lectures. So the group work is important, and the practical aspect that brings as well is really built into the modules on the course. So look, I suppose I'm just we're close enough to time. So just before I hand back to Eva, I suppose I'm just going to ask you your final thoughts, you know, for anyone who is considering, you know, and maybe you might just include it as well, you know, from your own perspective. And I know you've touched on it, but just, you know, what is the most rewarding aspect of being a CFP professional, and what would you say to somebody who's considering starting in September? So I'll go to you, maybe first, Mark.
Yeah, I think it's the impact you can now have on people's lives is remarkable. At a time where you've said the requirement for advice has never been higher. People have also never been more vulnerable. So we have to be very conscious of the fact that a growing wealth within the country places people in highly, highly vulnerable situations. So it's the privilege of what we get to do as a profession. You know, which at times is it's very difficult, you know, and I think being able to fall back on that community around you is a remarkable thing to be able to do, particularly given the fact that you know that they're sharing in these things. You can pick up a phone to Kelly-Anne or myself or whoever it happens to be, and you know you're talking on the same level. I'm like, I hope it comes across, but we're incredibly passionate about this. We're like, and I think a huge tranche of that was relationships that we build within the profession, but secondly that innate desire for lifelong learning. And that's what's made me so excited as chief exec in Hedderman Financial Solutions, is even seeing the lads coming forward saying, like, we've got Brian coming into the office next week to talk about the next step on our educational journey. They're making me kind of feel bad now, because I'm like, Jesus, I haven't done anything in a couple of years, so I need to get going at doing something else. But no, I think it's the crux. I think the whole crux of this thing is, if you aspire to stay and work in this profession and craft a career, this is a complete no-brainer. There's no other two ways around it. The wheels of change are moving globally around us. We can see that with European tax legislation, pensions legislation. We need to be one step ahead of this, and you need to pack your armory with the right stuff. And I can't recommend enough the graduate diploma and the CFP course. Absolutely phenomenal. It's been a complete game changer. I sit here in front of you now as president of the LAA, as a chief executive of our family business, as a director of the Financial Planners of Ireland group. Would I be doing that if I'd become a CFP? Absolutely not.
Okay, thanks, Mark. And same question to you then, Kelly-Anne.
Yeah, it gave me such a confidence in myself and in the the advice that I was given to the clients, the relationships that I was building. And again, like Mark, I started my own business after it. I didn't mean to. That wasn't on my plan, but I changed so much while I was doing the postgraduate diploma. I was going back into work trying to make everybody else change with me, and I realized I couldn't. To be able to give the advice, to have the message going out that I wanted to give, I had to set it for myself, and it's been so rewarding. And I think maybe sometimes I might have thought to myself, and Mark, as we're talking, we sound a bit like a cult, but everybody really is very, very passionate about what they're doing and really supportive. And it is like you step inside a whole new community. While I've been in the financial services for 27 years, this stage of my career is extremely different than what I experienced before. So yeah, just not only for the relationships that I fostered with my clients, but the confidence that I've gained in myself and the advice that I'm giving. It's been huge.
Brilliant. Well, look, that's great to hear. And I think we leave it on that. But thank you so much, Mark and Kelly-Anne, for that. Some really insightful thoughts there on what it's meant to you and to your businesses and to your careers as well. So I'll hand back to you, Eva.
Great. Thanks so much, Emer, and thanks, Mark and Kelly-Anne. I think we've loads of questions that have come in. So I think that was really insightful for people. As I said, it can be a bit daunting for people, I think, just kind of thinking about taking on, the postgraduate diploma program. But I think your insights, and the value that you actually got from the program hopefully has put some people, at ease as well. For anyone, I suppose, who would like more information about the program or, obtaining the CFP, there is information on our website, but you can also contact us directly. We'll be very happy to chat to you about your next steps. I'm just going to share on screen the contact details of my colleague, Brian Dunphy, who I know Mark mentioned during the call, this webinar, sorry. So his contact details, you can contact him, by email, and he will be more than happy to, talk to you about, the next steps, or like that, go out and visit your business, and maybe talk to your staff or your colleagues about, what LIA's education pathway might look like for you. And we are accepting applications now for the September intake of the program, and the deadline for registrations is the 23rd of August. So just to give you an idea, we would, I suppose, encourage you to enroll early. Just before we, I think, get into the questions, actually, I think we have a couple of questions here. I'm just conscious of time, but the first question, and Emer, I know you kind of maybe kind of mentioned this one already, but someone's, I suppose, just kind of asking about, after they complete, the postgraduate diploma program, can you just maybe give us a bit more of an indication as to what's, involved to actually get the CFP qualification?
Yeah, of course, Eva. So as I mentioned earlier, it's the 4 E's. So you've got your education, which is the postgraduate diploma, and it's the 4 E's in Ireland. It's 4 E's and an F everywhere else, because there's a financial plan element, and we've built that financial plan element into the postgraduate diploma. So that's that's module 6, which is the integrated financial plan. So the international requirements are an education program, the financial plan, which is built into the postgraduate diploma. So once you've successfully completed the postgraduate diploma, you'll have the first 2 requirements, and they're the big requirements. And the third then is the CFP exam. which is held twice a year, and that's run by FPSB Ireland. And the preparation for that is done throughout the the postgraduate diploma. So, having completed that, you should be very well geared up to sitting that CFP exam. The experience then is there's approved practitioner experience and approved relevant experience. So really it's 3 years experience providing advice or being involved in the provision of financial planning advice to clients. So there is more information about that on the FPSB website, and if anyone wants to contact us directly about that, if they have any concerns about whether they'd be able to get the CFP, go for CFP certification having completed the course, we'd be more than happy to answer any queries on that throughout the course. And then the final one then is the Code of Ethics and Professional Responsibility. And that's, I suppose that's something that we're really trying to in FPSB Ireland, we're really trying to promote as being a differentiator between CFPs and advisors, is this code of ethics and professional responsibility that goes beyond the minimum competency code, but is all about acting in the best interests of the client and working as a trusted advisor of the client. And we have a document that a lot of CFPs now share with clients, which sets out I suppose the 10 main points of that the Code of Ethics and Professional Responsibility that sets them apart. So then you apply for CFP certification, and it's approved by the board of FPSB Ireland, and then you can start using your CFP marks.
Great, thanks, Emer. And there's a good few questions in, I suppose, just about around the exams and the exam structure. So each module is examined on a continuous assessment basis. So, I think as, Kelly-Anne said earlier as well, like they are broken down, each module is broken down to 12-week blocks. So you're kind of examined throughout those 12-week blocks, which does make it a little bit, I think, more manageable, for students as well. And I suppose just to reiterate, like you're not on your own, during these exams. Like you have the full support of the lecturers and the team in LIA as well. Like there's we have dedicated people within the education team in LIA that do support students along their way as well, so that you're not on your own. There is, I suppose there's a question here, and maybe this is for Mark or Kelly-Anne, like, was there a favorite part of the course for you?
The behavioral aspect learnings, that's for me, I hadn't really delved into that before, because doing the QFA, it was all very practical knowledge. So I loved the behavioral side, learning about that.
Great, thanks. I don't know, Mark, do you?
Yeah, I felt the RPA for me was fantastic. The retirement planning module, that was a real eye opener. It was that ability to get so technical in an area that I felt we're kind of restricted in was remarkable. It's really changed the scope of the advice we're able to provide now to clients. And like that was the biggest takeaway for me, was the RPA.
Great. Okay, thanks, Mark. And someone, I suppose, is asking, and maybe Emer, you might be the best person to answer this one. Are you seeing more of a demand now in the industry for CFP professionals?
Absolutely, yeah. We're seeing a huge demand for CFP professionals. If you look at job advertisements for senior advisors, senior wealth managements across the industry, CFP is a minimum requirement in a lot of them now, or progress towards the CFP qualification certification. But even just speaking to industry leaders, we've set up in FPSB Ireland, we've set up a CFP firm forum. And that's it's representatives from the biggest firms, advice firms and wealth management firms across the country, and all of them want to engage with FPSB to see how we can develop CFPs and to see how we can develop more CFPs, because the demand that they have is just huge, and they're all there's a serious shortage of CFPs in the market at the moment, from what I'm seeing and from what I'm hearing from industry leaders, and they're really interested in, just as Mark and Kelly-Anne alluded to earlier, the different the different way that having come through the course, the different way that the advisors think when they've come through the postgraduate and they've got the CFP, that they take a different approach And I suppose it's that critical thinking skills that you develop across the CFP or the postgraduate and the CFP course, that it means that I suppose they would all say that it's a very different mindset, and it's a mindset about a more holistic financial planning. It's mindset about more client-centric financial planning, and that's what they all want to offer.
Great, thanks, Emer. So I suppose that's really kind of all we have time for. I know there's a couple of questions we didn't get to, so we will follow up with with individuals after this webinar to answer any questions that we didn't get to. I suppose I just want to say thank you again, to our panelists, Emer, Mark, and Kelly-Anne, for joining us this morning. I think there was some brilliant insights today, and thank you to everyone as well for tuning in. We hope you found this beneficial. We will be contacting everyone afterwards with more information about the programme and also a recording of this webinar. So we hope you have a lovely day, and thanks for joining.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.